All right. Did you take the break to take a look at the Twitter files? All right, good. Look, we know what the issue is. The stuff on social media. Who's deciding? Everybody thinks they're being shadow banned now. Who decides what is restricted? What is the community guideline? Who's really enforcing it? Is the government involved? Look, I think the answer is yes. But we need proof, and also we need proof of when that becomes a problem. Matt Taibbi says he has the goods to prove what should be too much in the latest Twitter files drop. You can look at his own Substack on this. He's been doing a lot of reporting on this issue, and he's taking it on again tonight in real time. Matt Taibbi, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
What is the problem, and what is the proof that the problem exists?
So in the lawsuit that was filed, Missouri v. Biden, which is the big internet censorship lawsuit, there was a big ruling that was handed down last week by a judge named Terry Dowdy. And the answer that a lot of people have had to this ruling, which effectively bars the government from communicating with social media companies, is that it's not really censorship because they're not directly ordering the companies to take things down. And I wanted to show, I went through the Twitter files and found a number of examples of this, but basically in one shot, you can see the FBI asks to remove 3 accounts. That gets forwarded to Twitter. Twitter immediately suspends the accounts. But more importantly, when there's a glitch and the accounts remain up, the FBI immediately writes back and says, "What's the deal? We just wrote to you. Why is it still up?" So that shows the nature of the relationship, basically, that it's not really a collaboration. It's much more like somebody reporting to an authority. And there are many examples of this.
So one, there are 2 counter arguments. One, I don't find that impressive, but it's an important exercise. The first one is, well, this is what the FBI does. They reach out to the private sector on a regular basis and say, hey, did you know, Matt Taibbi, of certain trading house that one of your guys has been making weird trades that we've heard about from the SEC? You should look at it. The problem with that counter argument is that they're not just being helpful because that is a suggestion of potential wrongdoing or criminality that the corporation will want to look at for its own standards. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about information they don't like, right?
Right. And if the standard were crimes, which are not barred by the ruling last week, the judge specifically said that it's okay to call the companies about child sexual exploitation, terrorism, anything of that nature. They're allowed to do that. What happens in these instances, in the ones that I was showing, they're just forwarding names of accounts that they say are associated with foreign threat actors. It's very vague. And Twitter is taking them down before they even investigate. In this case, they later determined that they couldn't find anything connecting them to any bad actors. In fact, one of them was from Canada. And so that's the problem. If it's not connected with a crime, they're just asking to take accounts down because they don't like the profile of them.
Now, what the judge looked at in that case that goes specifically to the point you're talking about, which is what got my attention, is at one point in the dicta or the discussion of the decision, the judge says, hey, Jen Psaki and the rest of the people at the White House who were going through different channels to get to social media platforms and say, hey, we don't like this stuff that people are saying about the pandemic or about any of the COVID protocols or the vaccine. You guys shouldn't be doing that. And the judge said Psaki et al., the other people, were wrong to do that. I agree. I don't think that the government should be reaching out and saying we don't like this messaging. It goes at our messaging. That's on them to just win the battle of ideas, is it not? And what does it say that Twitter was receptive?
Yeah, I mean, this is not an ironclad argument that the attorneys general were making. Essentially, what they were saying is by the same kind of argument and reasoning that you might get from a mobster who would say something like, it would be a shame if something happened to your company. They're not directly threatening you, but you get the message anyway. That's sort of what was going on with the government when they were saying, we need to look into antitrust violations. We need to do something about Section 230. And by the way, we would like to see more stringent enforcement of misinformation on your platform. Well, it's not that hard to figure out what they want in that case, right? And that's the
Right.
subtext of all these requests that they were getting. And they were coming in by the thousand. That was what we found at the Twitter files. And I think their argument works ultimately. I think that really is what they call, significant encouragement. And it is a First Amendment violation.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.